KHQ, your hometown election headquarters, has partnered with Greater Spokane Incorporated to bring you this 2019 mayoral debate. It started as a field of 5. Now the spotlight is on 2, Nadine Woodward and Ben Stuckart. One is homegrown. The other has made it her home for the past 3 decades. Nadine Woodward is an award-winning TV journalist, a mother, and a business owner. She spent 28 years reporting on the highs and lows of the Lilac City.
As journalists, we are trained to listen. We are trained to ask questions, analyze issues, research, engage. We're good communicators. And I think those are all skill sets that parlay really well into a leadership position like the mayor's office.
Ben Stuckart grew up in Spokane, left for a time, then returned, working in the nonprofit sector before moving into politics. Since 2012, he served as Spokane City Council president.
I really think somebody that can start on day one, that understands how City Hall works. I've run a business, I've run a nonprofit, I have management, leadership experience, and most importantly, I have relationships that I've built the last 7.5 years across the state of Washington that I can bring to bear on this situation.
Nadine Woodward, Ben Stuckart. You will decide who will take the mantle of leadership in Spokane on November 5th. We welcome you to the Spokane Convention Center.
And good evening to you. I'm Sean Owsley alongside my co-anchor Kalai Chalk as we are hosting this mayoral debate in conjunction with Greater Spokane Incorporated, and we welcome you.
We're so excited to be here as a sponsor for this event, along with several audience members who have joined us here at the Spokane Convention Center tonight. Thank you so much for being here. We also want to welcome our audience at home who is tuned in to KHQ, also watching on Facebook and on KHQ.com. This has been a collaboration as we work together to bring our 2 mayoral candidates up to the stage and ask them questions and give them a chance to respond to the person that they're running against.
A couple of the rules that have been agreed to by both candidates. Questions are sent in to us. They were sent in some guidelines and outlines on the specific areas we would focus on from business leaders from all over our area that are part of GSI. KHQ formulated and selected and formatted the final questions that will be asked tonight.
The way the process works is that the first candidate who will receive the first question, in this case it will be Nadine Woodward because she won the coin toss done previously. The first question will be addressed to Nadine. She'll have 90 seconds to respond.
Actually, she deferred. She did win the coin toss, but she deferred.
So you are responding second. Okay, thank you for the clarification. Ben will have 90 seconds to respond. Nadine will respond with 60 seconds, and then there is a final rebuttal of 30 seconds. That's how the process will work as Sean and I alternate asking questions.
And we would also politely ask, we appreciate you being here supporting this race, and that you remain quiet throughout the debate. No applause or vocalization of any kind. We ask you to respect that, please.
Well, with that, let's introduce our candidates. Please welcome to the stage Nadine Woodward and Ben Stuckart. That is confusing because we said don't applaud, and then I just asked you to welcome them to the stage. Clapping would be permitted as we welcome them, but again, moving forward in response, please don't applaud.
It is time for opening statements. Nadine won that coin toss. She deferred, so Ben gets to go first. Opening statement.
Oh, I thought we were doing questions straight up. We have opening statements? I thought we were doing questions right away. Sorry, I misread that. So my name is Ben Stuckart. I was born and raised in Spokane, went to Lewis and Clark High School. I moved away after going to Gonzaga University and lived in Oakland, California for 3 years, Madison, Wisconsin for 3 years, and then came back to Spokane. I've run multi-million-dollar businesses. I started a nonprofit called Communities and Schools, and then I've had the honor to serve as the City Council President for the last 7.5 years. Over the last 7.5 years, we've seen strong growth in Spokane. We've spent record amounts on our streets. We've seen investment in Riverfront Park. And we've seen a record amount of police officers hired. In the last year, crime has gone down by 15%. But with our growth comes challenges. Some of those challenges are houseless folks on the streets. And we need to come up with a better plan, and that's why I'm running for mayor. Thank you for your time.
Well, I believe this race is about trust, who you trust to be Spokane's next mayor. I don't come from a place of political experience, but I've never thought political experience was the best experience. But I do come from a place of being entrenched in Spokane issues for 28 years and in a position of public trust. I love the city. I've lived in the city for almost 3 decades, and today we are facing some serious questions. I've covered issues for almost 30 years, but we are facing homelessness at levels we've never seen before and public safety issues. And so as Spokane's next mayor, I will direct our police department to enforce the laws, and I will work to reduce the number of the homeless on our streets. That's one thing that you don't often hear about, is reducing the number of our homeless, getting them the help that they need in an effective, compassionate way. We need to see measurable results in doing so. And I think we can do better as a city. And I don't think spending tens of millions of dollars on 24/7 low-barrier shelters is the best answer to this issue.
All right, that is going to be our lead question. Homelessness, some call it crisis levels in our city. Tremendously complex issue involving mental health, addiction, poverty. The solutions have to be multi-pronged. Holding people accountable, compassionate enforcement, more housing and mental health treatment. Those are the approaches that you're both offering to this issue. What new idea do you have to expand on your different stances? How can it help alleviate an issue that is by all accounts at critical level?
So now to me first.
You are first, yes.
So I believe that homelessness is a complicated issue, just like we're all complicated individuals, and it takes individual solutions for each person in order to meet those goals. But I also believe that if you don't meet somebody's basic needs first, you're not going to meet those higher needs. And we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and we look at what shelter means, what food means, and human connection. And until we have those, we're not able to meet those higher needs. So I am a supporter of shelters. I believe right now, especially after last night with the freezing temperatures, I woke up at 6 a.m. and the first call I made was to House of Charity to open up for 60 more adults in our community, because there were 400 individuals on our streets last night that slept in that snow. And I believe that in order to actually get somebody the services, those shelters need to be open 24 hours a day. They need to be open 7 days a week, and they need to have case management. If we look at Hope House in the city of Spokane, they offer case management, and the average to get somebody stabilized and into permanent housing and transitional housing and into mental health therapy and into addiction services is 60 days. And so if we offer that case management, but right now the shelter system where it's just a bed or a mat, I agree, is not the solution. We need to offer case management, and they need to be open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in order to meet people's needs.
Well, I see the answer to this issue is about more than just warehousing people. I think we have to make the distinction between those who have fallen on hard times, lost a job, or have a medical issue for whatever reason and have lost their home. And those are the people who are getting help. And we have programs to help those kinds of people who want help and are willing to follow rules. We also have another segment of the homeless population that are addicted and living on our streets, and they don't want accountability. And we need to usher them through a system of help, but we have to have effective compassion, and there has to be accountability in our programs. I do not approve of just warehousing people. We need to move them through, and I have a plan. It's modeled after the one in Marysville, Washington, that gets people through the process and actually gets them to be functioning members of our society again, not just keeping them in 24/7 low-barrier shelters where they're not getting the help that they need.
Ben, you get 30 seconds.
So New York City in the late 1970s and early 1980s tried the treatment or jail options, and that's how HUD ended up with a housing first, because that is the solution and it's failed elsewhere. I am a believer that your basic needs must be met. My mom was a vice principal of discipline at her school, her first school. She had a little guy, and her first lesson she learned was feeding him was what actually made a difference with his behavioral problems. I'm an advocate of meeting your basic needs first in order to meet those, but we do have to have case management inside the shelter system.
Well, transitioning from the people who are living on the streets now to the businesses downtown, or businesses that are being affected by the homeless population. Local businesses are expressing their frustration, as I'm sure you've heard. They're trying to run their business. They're trying to create an inviting atmosphere for the public, and they're coming to their business every morning trying to open up when they're finding trash outside their business or other residual problems from people who are sleeping in front of their doorways at night. What do you say to those businesses with examples to help them in this area? How are they supposed to help combat the issue about also showing that compassion that you mentioned to the homeless population?
Can I answer this one first?
You do.
Well, I'm a business owner downtown, so our business sees it all the time. And we have many friends who are business owners as well, people sleeping in their doorways, leaving trash and needles, and defecating on their properties. I listen to a lot of business owners. Just listen to one who's been downtown for 11 years and is ready to leave because he has absolutely had it. He's had to spend $8,000 to put a gate on his front entrance. He's had his windows shot out. He has drug deals going down in his entryway all the time. We have to do a better job. I have the endorsement of the Police Guild and our Sheriff's Department. When it comes to the police, I want to put police downtown. I want the precinct back located downtown in the heart of our downtown. I want our laws enforced. And I want people, if you're doing drugs, you get arrested, but I also want to give people the choice. If you don't go to jail, you have to get help. And it has to come down to that. We have to give them a compelling reason to get help. And so that would be my approach. Ben?
Well, the jail is full, and even if we built a new one tomorrow and we all agreed on that, it would take 7 years to open up any new space in a brand new, huge jail. And if we don't have shelters open, they will be on the streets. There's not jail space for all of them. Even if we all agreed we're going to jail them all, we can't build ourselves out of that with a new jail. The Police Guild contract has been open for the last 3 years, and one of the first jobs of the new mayor is to settle this contract. And as I've said in multiple forums, going to the Guild right now, and this is the first thing that you need to do, is not appropriate. But over the last 6 years, I've championed 52 new officers in Spokane, and I sponsored the public safety levy that'll put 20 officers on the streets next year, 5 of them downtown. My opponent, she voted against the public safety levy, but says she supports new officers, but I still haven't figured out what she would cut in the city government in order to pay for this.
No, I think there's a lot to cut in the city government. Just give me a pen and I'll start doing it. I believe I got the Police Guild endorsement because they believe that I have the answer to a lot of these issues. You said that you would never ask for or want their endorsement. I plan on working with our police department to settle some of these issues and get some of the issues that we're facing right now. I think it's extremely important to have their endorsement, and I look forward to working with our strong and incredibly hardworking men and women in blue to settle some of these issues and to clean up, quite frankly, clean up downtown.
Describe what makes you the strongest candidate, uniquely qualified to lead and manage 2,000 employees and an $800 million budget.
So in the for-profit business world where I worked for 13 years, I managed a multi-million-dollar business, Tickets West, a 3-state region, and doubled revenue from $13 million to $26 million in the 7 years I was there. I also managed a nonprofit and then moved into the government world 7.5 years as council president. I understand management, I understand budgets, I understand how to sign paychecks, but I also understand as a member of the city council how the government works, and I understand what the departments are. I understand how planning works and how we're going to make our neighborhoods stronger. I've seen the comprehensive plan not be adopted. I've seen what happens when a mayor says, I'm not going to open new shelters, and it gets worse downtown. I think I have a unique skill set because I've been in city government, I've been in the for-profit world and the nonprofit world, have management experience, leadership experience of businesses, and understand how City Hall works and can hit the ground running on day one.
Well, I understand the business aspect of things, too, because I have the perspective of signing the front of a paycheck, not just the back of a paycheck, as a business owner. I have probably a dozen employees or so, not quite the experience that Ben has in that aspect, but I do know what it takes to run a business and to be accountable. And I think that's what you need. I think business experience is extremely important. And I believe that our next mayor, and I think our Mayor Condon has given our next mayor an incredible gift of a city with a balanced budget, When he got it, it was in the red. It took him his first term to balance that budget. We're spending within our means, and I think that's extremely important. And I think having that experience as a business owner is extremely important. But I also believe that we have a lot ahead of us, a lot to do. And I look forward to taking a look at that budget. I know I'll inherit it from Mayor Condon, the 2020 budget, but in 2021, making some revisions. I think there's a lot of fat in the budget. You can always find ways to, I didn't support the property public safety measure because I believe we could have hired those officers without raising your taxes. Raising taxes will always be a very last resort.
So it's not just business experience, it's management in nonprofit world where I signed the front of paychecks too, but it's also how City Hall works. And City Hall is a 2,000-person, billion-dollar agency that moves very slowly. And if you want to move a bureaucracy, you have to understand how it works, whose strengths are being played to inside of that organization. And I don't think you'd hire a CEO of an organization that doesn't have experience in the business line that they're in.
All right, next question. You guys both mentioned a jail. What's your insight and input into a new jail? Who would fund it? How would it operate? And then how would that be a game changer in the long term for our region?
Who goes?
Nadine.
Am I? It's me. There's a lot of talk about a new jail. And I would want to take a look at the figures. I would support it if it included job skills training and rehabilitation. And I think that's where we are as a society in rehabilitating our criminals. We have to, let's face it, the majority of the criminals that are going through the criminal justice system are doing it, committing crimes, property crimes, to fuel drug habits. I mean, that's where we are. And so we have to get to the point where we rehabilitated those who are incarcerated and teach them a skill so that when they are released, that they have something that they can fall back on and not making jail a revolving door. But I want to see the numbers. They have to pan out. It should go to the voters. It would be at the county level. So you'd have 500,000 people funding that as opposed to just the city of Spokane. But I think we need to have a serious conversation about a new jail.
Ben, you have 60 seconds.
So, yes, it's a county issue. It's not run by the city. The mayor's not going to get to decide what size the jail is. We can try to influence that decision, but it needs to be smaller than it is now. Right now, half of the people are on pretrial before they've been convicted in the current county jail. We can lessen that number with pretrial supervision and using ankle monitor and bracelets. We can get rid of the federal prisoners that we take right now. We take 132 federal prisoners a day. That's a budget-saving measure for the county, but we could shrink the overcrowding immediately right now if the county wanted to. Also, if we look at the $4.8 million that we spend on misdemeanors, that we pay the county to take our misdemeanors, misdemeanors do not need to be there. They can be in another area with our prosecutors and our municipal service center, which includes our prosecutors, public defenders, and our judges and our courtrooms, which are insufficient right now.
I would also like to give people who are arrested and charged with crimes the choice, especially if those crimes are fueled by addiction, and that is to give them that choice. Either they get help or they go to jail. And I think that's a compassionate way of giving someone a compelling reason to get help for themselves.
No matter which one of you is elected as the next mayor, we want that mayor to succeed. We want our city to be successful. The question is, what are the strengths and weaknesses of your opponent's skill set if they become the next mayor?
Strengths and weaknesses?
Yes.
Well, that's just kind of mean. Come on.
Well, you can make it mean or you can make it fairly nice.
What part is mean? The strengths
I was going
or
to go with the
weakness?
strengths. I've been watching the news for 20 years in our community, and Nadine is a trusted source for the news, and her family moved here and decided to settle here, and she's raised a great family. And I'm not going to go on the next step.
Okay, so that was your strength for
Yeah.
Nadine. Nadine, would you like to share strengths and weaknesses for Ben?
Ben loves this city just as much as I love this city. I mean, we can be in agreement about that. And he's very, very passionate. And we just have very different solutions and ideas to solve our problems. We're both passionate about it. But we just have different ways of dealing with things. And those differences, I think, are night and day, really. But he loves the city. I love the city, too. So.
I'm guessing no rebuttal, Ben. Solved.
We both love the city. It's great.
That was sweet.
And we want the best for our city, let's face it. We just have different ways of getting there. So
it's a good way to look at it. Okay, moving on to business climate and the workforce. What is your number one top business growth initiative?
you guys got to tell us who goes first because I lose track
you
out
go
here.
First.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, I have... I'll tell you about, I have an economic development vision, and I've always had this. And I've always wondered why we haven't partnered as a city and worked collaboratively with our regional neighbors, the cities from Airway Heights, Cheney Airway Heights, all the way to Coeur d'Alene, and develop the I-90 corridor into an economic development region where we work together and we attract business. We attract higher paying jobs. We attract different kinds of businesses. We go after businesses maybe on the west side that are struggling because of taxation and things over there. But I've always thought, why don't we work collaboratively as a region to target jobs and recruit jobs here? Because what's good for Spokane is good for the region. What's good for the region is good for Spokane.
Ben.
So one of the greatest weaknesses of our county is we're one of only 2 counties without a port district. And so the question to me is how do we get to an actual port district? Because those are economic drivers in other communities. What governments do well and what regions do well is build infrastructure to attract those businesses. And so you look at that from 2 different directions. We have public development authorities. We have the Northeast Public Development Authority, the West Plains Public Development Authority, which closed the gap on the Amazon project. And then we have the University District Public Development Authorities. Those are small mini port districts that we're using to show the efficacy of what a port district could be. And then the second way that we get to a port district is the 0.09 tax that should be the city's #1 legislative priority next year. I know it's going to be the #1 legislative priority of Greater Spokane Incorporated. And because that, we're one of the only counties that doesn't get that rebate. All rural counties get that rebate from the state sales tax. And we need to build that infrastructure in order to attract those businesses.
And then someday, my big vision for economic development as that progresses and improves is at some point, gosh, light rail, I think that would be so cool. I mean, I just think you start from downtown to the airport, you establish that it works, that it's successful, and then once we get that corridor built up with businesses and all kinds of people, we gravitate and we move it east all the way to Coeur d'Alene, and we have a light rail that we can afford because we've got the economic base to support it.
For the past decade, I've hosted a Sunday morning business program called Invest Northwest, where we focus on local businesses that are thriving or barely surviving. How will you help small businesses grow and flourish when their bottom line is so razor thin?
So this goes on. It's the second part of the cities. What we do good is invest in infrastructure. So on Sprague, what we did was invested $18 million from 22 different sources, and that was our targeted investment pilot project. And what we've seen on Sprague since that project finished over the last 3.5 years was larger median household income growth, more new businesses than in any other business district, and property values rose. But we also hedged against gentrification in that neighborhood by making sure that we had affordable housing that was built at the same time. We can replicate that in other neighborhoods. What we saw was when we increased the streetscape on Monroe, we actually saw a dozen new businesses open in that area and sales tax has risen. So if we want to help our small businesses, we create the environment in those neighborhood business districts to help them out.
Well, I think one of the ways to support small business is to listen to their needs, and when they bring a complaint to you, they're not vilified as Ben has when it comes to the homeless issue and their complaints downtown. We have a 17% vacancy rate downtown, and we can do a better job of filling those spaces. But we have to have a government and a mayor that supports small business. They're the economic driver of our economy, and that's what we absolutely have to do. I would say that.
Ben, you have 30-second rebuttal if you'd like.
Well, so I'm a huge supporter of small businesses. I don't vilify them. The biggest program that I'm most proud of is the Sprague Project, and that's when you target investment in one geographic area and improve the walkability of that neighborhood. It actually does lead to more businesses. And if we densify our small business areas and the surrounding areas around them, you actually create more people to shop at those businesses. And that's how we're going to survive long-term, is densifying the areas around those 28 business centers that our comp plan relies upon.
Okay, moving on to economic development then. Time after time, we hear from business owners that Washington State and Spokane's rules and regulations can make starting or moving a business here challenging. You guys kind of touched on that. As mayor, how do you plan to ease the bureaucracy and facilitate businesses to start up or relocate in our city? Well,
we need to be business friendly, and I support changing our charter to prevent a local income tax from ever happening. That would be absolutely number one. We have to be business friendly. We have to rely on our small businesses are the backbone of our economy, and as a small business, I completely understand that. The city council in the past has passed measures that have made it more difficult for our local small businesses to operate, and one of those is a sick leave that was passed as a city a whole year before the state decided to implement one. So now our local businesses had to do it 2 different times in 2 different ways. We need to be better at supporting our small business, and believe me, I am one. So I think we can always do a better job of that. But I would say definitely no local income tax.
So the state of Washington, it's illegal to have a local income tax already, and the courts ruled that Seattle's was illegal, so that's answer searching for a problem. Permitting should be online. We should institute lean government. We used to have an office of lean government at the city of Spokane, and that can actually improve permitting. We took it down in half by using lean principles, and we can do that throughout the city so that when we interact with the city and business owners come in, they can get things done faster. And we can fast track projects. If we want to focus on our centers and corridors and our comprehensive plan, we can say that all permitting coming in for new businesses can fast track through the process. We can actually jump that if you have the right leader at the helm. And I also believe projects like sick leave, people shouldn't have to call in sick or not take their kid to school, and it's actually a measure to attract talent. And the studies show that municipalities and states that have adopted paid sick leave actually attract better talent and have better talent pool for businesses to draw from, so it helps the business client when you offer things like sick leave.
Would you like to respond? 30 seconds?
No, I'm fine. Thanks.
Where are the weak links? Which areas or industries in Spokane do you both feel need to be a priority, needs your primary attention, should be your primary focus as mayor?
I think there's 3 areas. We should be focused on the West Plains on aerospace growth. That takes advantage of the current structure that we have there and the strength of the Spokane Airport, and that's why we set up the Public Development Authority, is to take advantage of aerospace industries. In the University District, we've been blessed with 2 medical schools, which is absolutely amazing. We need to take advantage of those medical schools and be attracting medical technology in the South University District. And then in the Northeast Spokane, where we lost 40% of our manufacturing jobs over the last 50 years, we need to rebuild that area, and that needs to become heavy industrial and light industrial. Take advantage of the North-South Freeway coming in, take advantage of the Public Development Authority, and pave the 60 lanes, the 60 miles of the industrial land that is still not paved and hasn't been paved over the last 95 years 95 years when we annexed Hilliard. And we haven't paid enough attention, and that needs to be our manufacturing area where we attract businesses. So those are the 3 areas we really, I think, medical, aerospace, and heavy manufacturing and light manufacturing in Hilliard are what we should be focused on.
Well, I love what the PDAs are bringing to our economy and to our community and the businesses, and I think that's fantastic. But we also have to be more business friendly to the businesses that are complaining, especially those downtown and on our corridors. Complaining because of our homeless issue, complaining because of crime. I mean, that's just a paramount concern. That is something we need to do a much better job of doing. And then job recruitment and business recruitment. I mean, we need to be looking at areas outside of Spokane and recruit those kinds of businesses on the west side, especially Portland and Seattle, that are just struggling because of regulations. Let's do a better job of recruiting some of those here. And then again, just supporting our business climate. Our business community needs more support.
So just to touch upon, I think the question was about which specific areas should we focus on. So I want to reiterate, it should be aerospace, medical, and heavy industrial. And then to talk quickly about downtown, if we don't have any more shelter space, we're going to have people on the streets. That's just a basic fact. At this point, if we don't open more shelter space, people will be on the streets and the business climate downtown will suffer. Also, I believe that actions speak louder than words, and the 52 police officers I put on the streets show that.
Next question. Which industries are accelerating traction in Spokane? How do you grease that wheel to maximize potential?
Well, I would like to see the technology industry increase, and I would let I-90 corridor, a plan of mine to attract and target businesses here that either want to expand, want to have another faction to their business, or that are struggling on the west side. And so I think the tech industry is a pretty easy one. We do have people moving here that are business self-employed, but we need the capital that goes behind that as well. So I would say just being able to attract some of those, and like I say, working collaboratively to develop that I-90 corridor to get those good paying jobs. We have universities that are graduating all kinds of skilled people, and oftentimes they leave for the jobs and then they come back later. My children are in that category, and I want to be able to have those economic opportunities and jobs for them to be able to stay and not have to leave and come back. So I would say definitely targeting that I-90 corridor and attracting jobs that are struggling elsewhere, bring them here.
So how do we grease the skids? And I think that's by doing what the cities do best, which is invest in infrastructure. And that can be done on a small business level. We grease the skids by creating those walkable neighborhoods that are surrounded by density so that we have people to shop at those small businesses. In our PDAs, we grease the skids by doing what we're doing on the West Plains, which is profit sharing. This is the first time, and I remember sitting in the very first meeting where we talked about forming a PDA on the West Plains with Al French. And the question was, how do we profit share? And so the city puts money in the pot, the county puts money in the pot, the airport comes to the table with land, and what we've now built is a rail spur. And then now we're going to build a transload facility, and you grease that skid by providing the infrastructure. And the next step is, how do you provide facilities? So when a manufacturing firm wants to come to Spokane, we have a facility ready for them with a rail line and with a transload facility that they can unload on. So we build infrastructure smartly in smart areas and target our industries that we get, and that's how we grease the skids.
Well, I just say we need to support our business community, no matter what they bring to the table. A complaint, we need to clean up downtown. We need to make our city more business friendly, and we need to do a better job of attracting new business here.
Let's focus on transportation. You both touched on that in some of your previous answers. I-976 will be voted on, known as the Car Tab Initiative, November 5th. It will be voted on by the voters this election. What is your view of it? Your stance on it? How do you feel it will impact transportation for our city?
Well, I think it'd be devastating. Luckily, in the last 7 years, we've doubled the amount that we're spending on our residential streets to about $5 million. But that's not nearly enough to be spending on our residential streets. We have a good long-term arterial plan. But if I-976 passes, it will gut the residential street funding. We will lose $2.5 million. Now, I can't find money in the budget right now, no matter how hard I try to hire the 20 new police officers. I'm not sure where I'd find $2.5 million for our residential streets. Also, it would suffer on the north-south freeway. We've started it going, and it's all the way down past where we were at near Wellesley the other day, opening that. But it will halt that project if I-976 passes. So then we'll have half of a north-south freeway. So I'm adamantly opposed, and I worry about what it'll do.
This may be one area that you and I agree on, Ben. Typically, I would want to roll back those car tabs back to $30 because I hate the fact that the voters voted for $30 car tabs and the legislature just kept adding more and more fees to make it a higher cost for our motorists. But we need those. We need the funding for the projects. We've been waiting, 40 years for North-South Freeway, and we're only halfway through. And I just cannot see us jeopardizing those kinds of funds so that we don't see. We need to take the traffic off of Division, and we need to have another thoroughfare. And so for that, as well as the funding that we have for other transportation projects, I just see that is something that just has to pass.
Any response?
No.
Okay. We are about to wrap up our broadcast portion on KHQ. We will have closing statements from the candidates, and then after that we will stream for you on KHQ.com and on Facebook a couple of audience questions that were submitted in writing for the two candidates here. We begin with the closing statements. Ben, you get to go first.
Oh, we close and then keep going? Mm-hmm. Well, that is fascinating.
We're closing for the people watching at home.
I'm following the rule book right here.
Well, that's just weird, though.
I love it.
All right. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you to those who are watching at home. If you're one of the 9,000 people that are still without power, I hope it gets on soon. Thank you to everybody, the city crews, the Vista linemen that are working on that problem right now. My wife's at home, and we're one of those 9,000 that doesn't have power, so I don't know where we're going to sleep tonight. But I'm thinking of everybody in the community.
You want to come over to my house?
We'll be over at 8:30. Appreciate you watching. Thank you so much. Thank you both very much. I think you've seen some differences in policy opinions this evening. I do believe strongly, though, that part of the solution to each individual's complicated measure of homelessness, and that affects safety downtown, that affects the perceptions in our community, is actually providing shelter. I do believe that you have to have those shelters open or there'll still be people on the streets. I do believe we're on the right track with economic development, with our public development authorities, and I believe we need to continue down that track, and we need to focus on those areas. We need to focus on aerospace. We need to focus on medical technology, and we need to focus on industrial in Northeast Spokane. And we have great opportunities in front of us. And we're here at the convention center, and I was just looking out the window and noticing the pavilion across the river. Couldn't be prouder of some of the things that we've done in Spokane, and believe we can all together move forward. So thank you very much for considering.
I'll just say I hope that you don't have a loss of power for 8 days like we did during windstorm 2015. That was a test of patience for sure, that was. But like I said, you're more than welcome to come over to my house. Right, hubby? Hubby's in the crowd. I don't know if he'll approve that, but we'll see anyway. Well, hey, I believe that the results of this election are going to determine who we are and where we go, obviously, for at least a generation. And we need Spokane solutions to address our issues, and one of them is homeless. Ben and I couldn't be more different in that area. I want us to have programs that are about effective compassion and moving people forward, not just warehousing people at taxpayer expense to the amount of tens of millions of dollars. I don't think that's effective compassion. We need to help people get through the system. We need to give them a better life. Those who are addicted or have addictions, we need to get them help as well, but not at the taxpayer expense. And at the very least, when we start working on this issue when I am mayor, it has to be a collaborative effort. Spokane can't do this alone. We need to start collaborating with our neighbors much more than we do. And they're sending their homeless here. So we need that help. And we can be a model, I think, for what other cities will look at. I mean, Marysville is doing it, and they're doing it quite effectively. I would add to their components, I would also add job skills training and community mentors to help people, usher them through this whole process. We have to get to the point where we expect more out of our government because we're spending your money, the taxpayer money, and we need to move people forward, not just enable and keep them where they are.
All right, Ben and Nadine, thank you so much. I think you guys said it well. You both love this city. You both want what's best for it. How to get there, that's where you differ, and that's where voters have the chance to decide. Election night, November 5th. That's why we're putting this on TV for everybody at home and hosting this along with Greater Spokane Incorporated so that you can decide and cast your vote November 5th on Election Day.
For all of you watching at home on KHQ, we will take a break. You'll be joined by an abbreviated newscast with Dan and Stephanie. If you want to follow along on KHQ.com and KHQ's Facebook page, we have some written submitted questions from the audience for the candidates. We will have a few more questions that they will answer. And to both of you, thank you for your insight. I noticed you were talking before the debate, and we can be civil and lead this city. So thanks to both of you for being here and providing your insight on what makes Spokane great and what's going to make it even better.
Thank you both.
Like Sean said, we're going to take a break for our TV audience. When you come back, you'll be with Dan and Steph in the studio. Here we'll regroup, and you can join us on KHQ.com if you'd like to join the conversation or continue the conversation here.
We did come to an
Closed captioning for this program is brought to you by your local Toyota dealers.